Beloved, listen to me closely. Tonight is not just another night. This is a divine appointment, a moment where heaven wants to shift your story. There are seasons when God calls your spirit to attention, and this is one of them. You didn't stumble upon this message by accident. Something greater drew you here, because there is a secret, a divine mystery, that when you grasp it, money will no longer control you, it will obey you. You've worked hard, you've prayed, you've fasted. Yet sometimes it feels like breakthrough is just one step away, but never fully arrives. Tonight, that delay breaks. Tonight, revelation replaces struggle. I'm going to share with you a powerful spiritual law, a principle so simple yet so supernatural. It will change the way you see finances, faith, and favor forever. You will never chase after blessing again. Blessing will begin to chase after you. Before we begin, quiet every distraction. Find a space where your heart can listen. Because what you are about to hear is not just teaching, it is transformation. There is an atmosphere being released even now. As you listen, faith will rise, burdens will lift, and divine wisdom will enter your spirit. Every word spoken in this moment carries a creative force that will begin to align your life with heaven's abundance. Stay with me till the very end of this message, because the last part carries a prophetic declaration that has the power to unlock your next season. Don't treat this like just another motivational talk. Treat it as a divine encounter. By the time we finish, something inside you will awaken. You'll begin to see that money is not your master, it is your servant. And when faith speaks, even finances must listen. So open your heart, prepare your spirit, because tonight revelation is about to flow. Get ready for a transformation that will not only shift your mindset, but manifest miracles in your life. Stay till the end, and you will know that heaven itself has spoken directly to you. The law of faithful imagination is one of the most powerful yet often overlooked spiritual principles that governs the flow of wealth and abundance. Everything that exists in the physical world was first conceived in the invisible realm of thought, vision or imagination. Faith begins where sight ends, and imagination is the bridge between what you hope for and what you eventually hold in your hand. Before you can see prosperity around you, you must first see it within you. The reason so many people struggle with lack is not because opportunities don't exist, but because their inner picture has been shaped by limitation rather than abundance. The mind becomes the womb of creation, and whatever image it carries long enough will manifest in time. When you imagine in faith, you are not daydreaming, you are constructing a reality in the unseen world. The Creator Himself imagined light before it appeared. He spoke what He saw within. In the same way, when you begin to meditate on abundance with conviction, when you see yourself walking in provision, when you imagine yourself debt-free, giving freely, and living with overflow, your spirit starts to generate a magnetic field that attracts those realities into your life. Faithful imagination is not wishful thinking. It is focused spiritual visualization anchored on divine promises. You don't imagine based on fantasy. You imagine based on the truth of what God has already declared. You are not creating something new. You are agreeing with something eternal. Money does not respond merely to human labor. It responds to spiritual conviction. If within you the picture of insufficiency dominates, your actions will unconsciously reinforce that image. You will make fearful decisions, settle for less, and expect scarcity. But when your imagination has been renewed with divine abundance, your actions, words, and energy align with prosperity. Faithful imagination gives permission for heaven's supply to flow into your environment. It shifts your vibration from begging to believing, from worry to worship, from fear to faith. You begin to think and speak like one who already possesses what others are still asking for. There is a difference between pretending and perceiving. Pretending says, I hope it happens, while perceiving says, it already exists and I am aligning with it. The more you hold the inner image of abundance, the faster the outer world begins to mirror it. That is why time spent in meditation is not wasted time. It is the most productive activity of a faith-filled person. In that quiet moment of vision, you are shaping tomorrow's experiences. When you visualize your goals wrapped in gratitude and faith, the universe begins rearranging circumstances, people, and opportunities to match your inner picture. Faithful imagination makes money obey because money is energy. It flows where belief directs it. The image you hold determines the reality you live. If you see yourself as lacking, you will always attract lack. But if you see yourself as one who gives, shares, builds, and blesses others, the flow of provision will never stop. Words that command creation carry the very breath of life within them. Every spoken word is a seed, and once released into the atmosphere, it begins to create conditions that mirror its nature. The unseen realm responds not to emotions or intentions, but to sound. Sound that is filled with conviction and faith. The reason many people pray but never see results is because their words are filled with fear and desperation rather than authority and certainty. Money, opportunities, and resources are spiritual in essence, and they respond to faith-filled words that come from a heart that believes what it says. When your words carry authority, creation listens and manifestation follows. From the beginning, the universe was designed to obey spoken command. The Creator did not form the world with tools or hands, but with words. Every let there be established a law that governs the material world even today. You were made in that same image, endowed with the power of speech that can construct or destroy, call forth or shut down, build prosperity or invite poverty. When you speak, you are not merely expressing thoughts, you are authorizing movement in the unseen realm. Every declaration creates a vibration that either aligns with abundance or with lack. This is why words must be chosen carefully, because the moment they leave your lips, they begin shaping your environment. Money does not respond to begging. It responds to faith-filled command. When you declare, resources are flowing to me now, you are not demanding from a place of pride. You are exercising your divine right of authority. The earth was programmed to respond to those who understand dominion. Everything in creation carries ears that listen for spiritual instruction, and your finances are no exception. The difference between a struggling believer and a prosperous one often lies in how they speak. One says, I never have enough, and their life agrees. The other says, I am walking in divine provision, and life bends itself to fulfill that decree. Authority in speech is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are not trying to convince the universe of something. It already knows the truth. You are simply bringing your words into agreement with that truth. When your confession harmonizes with divine law, nothing can resist your decree. The key is consistency, because every repeated declaration reinforces its vibration in the spiritual atmosphere until it becomes too real to remain invisible. That is how mountains move, how debts disappear, how new streams of income open where none seem possible. There is a supernatural rhythm between belief and speech. Your words reveal your inner belief system, and your life follows the direction of your declarations. When you begin to speak wealth, favor, and success, not as a future hope, but as a present reality, you give heaven permission to release it into your experience. What you continually affirm becomes your word. Speak boldly, not from need, but from knowing. And the substance of what you declare will appear. Faith as the currency of heaven is the principle that governs every form of supernatural exchange. Just as money is used to purchase goods in the natural world, faith is what gives you access to divine resources in the spiritual realm. Nothing moves in heaven without faith. It is the invisible force that translates promises into experiences, unseen blessings into tangible manifestations. You cannot receive what you do not believe, and you cannot manifest what you do not expect. Faith is not mere optimism or positive thinking. It is a spiritual law that compels the unseen to become seen. When your faith is active, heaven recognizes your transaction and begins to release provision according to your belief. Many people chase money, forgetting that true wealth flows to faith, not to effort alone. Effort has its place, but without faith it becomes toil, and toil was never part of divine design. Faith elevates your labor from human striving to divine cooperation. It is faith that turns an ordinary idea into a supernatural opportunity. When you believe deeply that God is your source, you stop depending on the visible and start drawing from the invisible. The invisible realm holds unlimited supply, but it only opens to those who pay with faith. Every time you trust without seeing, speak without doubting, and act without fear, you make a heavenly withdrawal. Faith does not deny reality, it transforms it. It does not ignore the presence of lack. It introduces a higher truth that abundance already exists in the unseen. Faith does not need evidence to believe. It becomes the evidence itself. It is the assurance that what you cannot yet touch is already yours in another dimension. Just as money must be exchanged for value, faith must be exchanged for manifestation. When you bring your faith to the altar of belief, the supernatural releases its storehouses in your favor. Every miracle in Scripture was a response to faith, never to need, never to complaint, only to belief. Faith is also an energy that carries its own language. It speaks boldly, acts immediately, and waits patiently. It does not beg or bargain, it declares and thanks. When you walk in faith, your words carry creative power. Your actions align with divine timing, and your expectations invite favor. Money obeys faith because faith carries the vibration of certainty. The moment you stop worrying about where the resources will come from and start thanking for what is already released, the unseen begins to organize itself for your benefit. When faith becomes your currency, limitation loses its grip. You begin to operate on a higher economy, one that is unaffected by inflation, crisis, or scarcity. You are no longer bound by what is in your account because your trust is anchored in an inexhaustible source. Faith does not chase results. It attracts them. The one who understands this lives with peace while others panic, gives while others withhold, and prospers while others struggle. Faith makes heaven's abundance legally available to anyone who dares to believe. The principle of divine ownership is the understanding that everything we have and everything we will ever receive belongs to a higher source. Nothing on this earth truly belongs to us. We are only stewards of what has been entrusted into our care. When you grasp this truth, your relationship with money completely changes. You stop living from a place of anxiety and start operating from a place of trust. You realize that the one who owns all things has already made provision for every need you will ever encounter. The fear of running out disappears because you are no longer depending on your own ability. You are depending on divine supply. Money begins to obey those who understand that they are not the owners, but the managers of wealth. Ownership creates pressure, but stewardship creates peace. When you think everything depends on your effort, you live in fear of loss. But when you recognize that you are managing heaven's resources, you operate with confidence and wisdom. You become more generous because you know that the flow of provision is not limited to what is in your hand. It is like a river. It flows through you but originates from a source much greater than you. The key is to stay connected to that source through faith, gratitude, and obedience. When people act as if they are the source, they limit their capacity to receive. The mindset of ownership produces greed and fear, while the mindset of stewardship produces abundance and peace. A steward knows that resources must flow to grow. The more freely you release what you have in obedience and generosity, the more freely the universe returns it to you. Money was never meant to be a master, it was meant to be a servant. When you try to control it, it controls you. When you surrender it to divine direction, it multiplies effortlessly. Divine ownership also changes the way you make financial decisions. Instead of chasing every opportunity, you begin to seek divine guidance. You ask, what would the true owner want me to do with this? And that question aligns you with supernatural wisdom. Many financial mistakes are made when people act out of fear or greed, forgetting that they are simply managers of a greater kingdom's resources. When you let the true owner lead, every step you take prospers because you are walking in divine order. Even your delays become preparation for greater release. When you live with the awareness that all you have belongs to God, gratitude becomes your natural response. Gratitude attracts multiplication and fear repels it. You no longer hold tightly to what you possess because you trust that there is more coming. The principle of divine ownership removes the burden of scarcity and replaces it with the joy of abundance. It frees your heart from the stress of survival and places you in the flow of supernatural provision. When you truly see yourself as a steward, money stops controlling you and starts obeying your purpose. Sowing with revelation, not emotion, is one of the greatest spiritual secrets for unlocking supernatural provision. Giving is not about the amount you release, but the understanding with which you release it. Many people give out of pressure, guilt, or a desire to manipulate results, but revelation-based giving flows from faith and insight. When you sow with revelation, you are not simply parting with money, you are partnering with divine law. Every seed carries a prophetic assignment, and revelation is what gives that seed direction. Emotion might make you feel inspired for a moment, but revelation sustains your action until manifestation comes. True sowing begins when you understand that what leaves your hand does not leave your life. It enters a higher dimension where it multiplies and returns in divine timing. Emotion often gives impulsively and expects instant reward, but revelation gives strategically and waits patiently. When you sow with revelation, you see giving as a spiritual investment, not a loss. You are not trying to buy God's favor. You are activating the law of increase that He already established. You give because you know that seed time and harvest will never cease. Every act of giving becomes a declaration of faith that your source is greater than your current supply. Revelation-based sowing is guided by divine's instruction. It listens before it releases. There are moments when you feel prompted to give, not because it makes sense, but because it aligns with a spiritual assignment. That is when your giving carries prophetic weight. The seed you sow in obedience speaks louder than words. It breaks barriers, shifts seasons, and opens doors that effort alone could never open. When you give without revelation, you might feel generous but remain unfruitful. When you give with revelation, you plant into fertile soil that guarantees harvest. The power of a seed lies not in its size, but in the revelation behind it. A small seed given in faith can produce a harvest that changes generations. Every time you release something precious, heaven takes notice. The spiritual law of exchange begins to work in your favor. Revelation-based giving also purifies your motive. It transforms giving from a transactional act to a relational expression. You are no longer giving to get, you are giving because you understand that abundance flows through you, not just to you. Those who sow with revelation never fear lack because they know how the law works. They recognize that every need carries a seed, and that seed, once released in faith, guarantees future supply. Emotion stops at the act of giving, but revelation continues to expect, believe, and thank even before the harvest appears. This is why revelation givers never run dry. They are constantly replenished because their giving is guided by divine wisdom, not human impulse. To sow with revelation is to participate in the creative process of heaven, where your faith-filled generosity becomes the key that unlocks continual abundance and supernatural multiplication. Speaking to your finances is an act of spiritual authority that aligns your words with divine truth and compels the material world to respond to your faith. Everything created responds to the voice of the one who carries belief. Just as the Creator spoke light into existence, you too have been given the ability to call things that are not as though they were. Your words are not empty sounds, they are spiritual forces that shape outcomes. When you speak to your finances, you are not begging for change, you are commanding alignment with heaven's abundance. Poverty, lack, and delay do not respond to emotion, they respond to authority. The moment you speak with conviction and faith, your finances begin to shift according to the power of your declaration. Words are spiritual containers filled with faith or fear, and whatever they carry, they will produce. Many people unknowingly curse their finances through careless speech, saying things like, "I'm always broke," or "money never stays with me." These words create a spiritual atmosphere that blocks prosperity. But when you speak words of life, you change the vibration of your environment. The unseen realm hears your confession and organizes resources, connections, and opportunities to match your words. The universe does not respond to need. It responds to faith expressed through speech. When you declare, "Money comes to me now," you are not making a wish. You are releasing a decree that carries creative power. Speaking to your finances is also an act of reclaiming dominion. From the beginning, humankind was given authority to rule over the earth, not to be ruled by it. Money is a tool, a servant, not a master. When you speak to it with faith, you remind it of its purpose. You establish order in your life by putting spiritual authority above material possession. Every command you give in faith sends a signal into the spiritual dimension, and angels of provision begin to move on your behalf. Lack loses its hold, and doors that seemed closed begin to open because the word you spoke carried divine backing. Your voice is the instrument heaven uses to manifest divine will on earth. When you remain silent, nothing changes. When you speak boldly, creation responds. Speaking to your finances is not about arrogance. It is about agreement. You are agreeing with the truth that you are a child of divine abundance, not a victim of circumstance. Every declaration reinforces your identity as a steward of infinite resources. The more you speak prosperity, the more your consciousness aligns with it. As your inner world changes, your outer world must follow. Consistent declaration is key. You cannot speak once and expect instant transformation. Just as seeds take time to grow, your words must be nurtured with persistence and belief. Each time you speak faith-filled words over your finances, you water your spiritual seed. Over time, that seed manifests as unexpected provision, divine ideas, or supernatural favor. Speaking to your finances is not about convincing the universe. It is about commanding your own faith to rise until everything around you obeys the voice of divine authority flowing through you. As we come to the end of this powerful message, remember this truth. Money does not move by effort alone. It moves by faith, revelation, and divine alignment. The secret is not in chasing after wealth, but in understanding the laws that govern it in the spiritual realm. When you operate with faith as your currency, when you live as a steward of divine resources, when you sow with revelation and speak with authority, lack cannot hold you captive. The same power that created the universe responds to your belief. Heaven's economy never runs dry, and those who walk by faith always draw from that endless flow. You were never designed to live in scarcity. You were born to manifest abundance, to demonstrate that heaven's resources answer to spiritual authority. Every word you speak in faith plants a seed that must bear fruit. Every act of obedience positions you for breakthrough. Every prayer backed by belief becomes a transaction in the courts of heaven. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Tonight is the moment. Believe that the shift has already begun. Declare that money obeys your faith. See yourself walking in divine provision, living in overflow, and testifying of the goodness that follows those who trust without fear. So as you step into your next season, carry this understanding: you are not chasing blessing. Blessing is chasing you. The flow of provision is already open. All you must do is stay aligned, stay thankful, and stay speaking. This is your moment of divine turnaround. Your hands will no longer be empty, your heart will no longer be anxious, and your path will no longer be delayed. The supernatural economy of heaven is working for you right now. May this revelation ignite your spirit with fresh faith. And may every word spoken tonight manifest as abundance in your life. The doors of favor are opening. The chains of financial struggle are breaking. And divine opportunities are locating you even now. Walk boldly, give freely, speak faithfully, and watch as everything begins to obey the power within you. Good luck, beloved, as you step into a week of miracles, favor, and unstoppable increase. May your faith rise above fear. May your heart remain grateful, and may your testimony overflow with blessings. Thank you for joining this divine moment of revelation and prayer. Your breakthrough has already begun.